Good evening and welcome. My name is Ron Matoyer, and I'm the Vice President Associate Provost for Teaching and Learning here at the university. On behalf of the Office of the President and the Office of the Provost, I am delighted to welcome you to tonight's program, Building a Legacy of Opportunity, with special guest Dr. Howard Adams. It's an honor to participate this evening and see our campus honor the great Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who, while a student at Morehouse College in 1947, wrote, "Education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. The function of education, therefore, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But education which stops with efficiency may prove the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason, but with no morals." He goes on to say, "We must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." These insightful words resonate deeply with the core values we hold here at Notre Dame, where we seek to offer an education that is not just about acquiring knowledge, but also about developing the whole person. Individuals with a strong moral character and the ability to think critically and a desire to go out and do good in the world. So it is a true honor to work with you all on a daily basis, to work to achieve that goal. Tonight's discussion is part of the 9th annual Walk the Walk Week, which celebrates the diversity that currently exists on our campus and invites us each to reflect on our next steps in making Notre Dame even more welcoming and inclusive. At this time, it is my honor to welcome to the stage the University of Notre Dame's 17th President, Reverend John Jenkins, CSC, to offer words of welcome and our invocation.
Well, thank you, Ron. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here this evening and to celebrate this Walk the Walk with you. We are going to share a meal in a few minutes, but I want to say a few words about our program this evening. We are truly honored to have with us Dr. Howard Adams this evening. Dr. Adams spent almost 20 years here at Notre Dame on our campus as the inaugural executive director of the National Consortium for Graduate Degrees for Minorities in Engineering and Science, or GEM, as it's known, which had headquarters in Cushing Hall of Engineering before moving to Washington, D.C. in 2007. Throughout his career, Howard has helped thousands of talented students from underrepresented backgrounds navigate their higher education system in STEM, and I imagine life in general. We are delighted to welcome Howard back here We were delighted to welcome Howard back to campus last May to present him with an honorary degree in recognition for his lifelong work in empowering others. It was after meeting him at commencement that we thought we must have him back to share his wisdom and experience with the whole campus community. He is joined tonight by three of the very many accomplished scientists and engineers he has mentored over his remarkable career. Howard's life should be an example to all of us. Walk the Walk Week calls us not just to talk, but to walk the walk of showing respect for each person, seeking justice, equity, and inclusion, and caring particularly for the most marginalized, as Dr. Martin Luther King taught us. We can sometimes think that what is required is some big, dramatic action, some single, pivotal contribution. Howard Adams' life reminds us that you can have a tremendous impact simply by engaging each person we meet, seeing the talent they have, encouraging them, advising them, writing that letter of recommendation, or making that phone call on their behalf when asked. Those many seemingly small actions over the course of life have had an impact on hundreds of lives and have created leaders for organizations of many kinds. Walk the Walk Week gives us an opportunity to reflect on how we can see similarly small acts, which, if done consistently over a lifetime, can have an enormous impact. With that in mind, let us now begin our meal with a prayer. Lord, we ask you to bless this gathering, bless our food, which comes from your bounty. Bless in a special way our guests this evening. May they feel our gratitude for being with us. Bless our friend, Howard Adams. And Lord, we thank you for his lifetime of work in seeing and developing talent in people. As we convene this Walk the Walk Week, give us the grace to walk the walk, to see the worth, talent, and goodness in each person we meet, and to be generous with encouragement, counsel, and help. In your name we pray. Amen. Enjoy your meal.
Now I am pleased to welcome to the stage Dr. Stephanie Adams, Robert Jones, Dr. Sylvia Wilson-Thomas, and the moderator of tonight's discussion, Dr. Howard Adams. Dr. Stephanie Adams is the 5th Dean of the Erik Jonsson School of Engineering and Computer Science and holder of the Lars Magnus Ericsson Chair at the University of Texas at Dallas. A pioneer in engineering education, Dr. Adams has devoted her career to broadening participation in STEM and graduate student development. Dr. Adams holds a bachelor's degree with honors from North Carolina A&T State University in mechanical engineering, a master's degree in systems engineering from the University of Virginia, and a doctorate in interdisciplinary engineering from Texas A&M University. She is a past president and a fellow of the American Society of Engineering Education, a member of the advisory committee for the STEM Education Directorate at NSF, is a member of the National Advisory Board of the Society of Hispanic Engineers, and is a member of the External Advisory Board of Spectrum X here at Notre Dame. She is also the proud daughter of our distinguished guest, Dr. Howard Adams, and grew up here in South Bend. Robert Jones is the founder, president, and CEO of PReSafe Technologies, an emerging cybersecurity and operational security solution delivery company with an emphasis on protecting global digital assets, supporting the nation, commercial businesses, critical infrastructure, and academic communities. Mr. Jones has more than 30 years of leadership and technology experience and was recently named the chairperson of the Air Traffic Control Association Aviation Cybersecurity Programming Committee. Mr. Jones holds a Master of Science degree from Polytechnic University, now NYU Tandem, and a Bachelor of Science degree from Notre Dame, both in electrical engineering. Dr. Sylvia Wilson-Thomas is Vice President for Research and Innovation and President and CEO of the USF Research Foundation at the University of South Florida. A professor in electrical engineering, Dr. Wilson-Thomas has contributed to USF's efforts in research innovation, strategic planning, cultural transformation, economic development amongst underserved communities, and in student recruitment. Her involvement and constant dedication to STEM education, diversity, and professional development have led to national recognition, including the recipient of the 2020 Black Engineer of the Year STEM Educational Leadership Award from U.S. Black Engineer and Information Technology magazine. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering from Vanderbilt University and a PhD in electrical engineering from Howard University. And last, but by no means least, Dr. Howard Adams, founder and CEO of H.G. Adams and Associates, and the inaugural executive director of the National Consortium for Graduate Degrees for Minorities in Engineering and Sciences, or GEM. An advocate, consultant, and mentor, Dr. Adams has been recognized nationally for his involvement with diversification of graduate education over his 40-plus year career. In 1989, President Ronald Reagan named Dr. Adams to the U.S. Congressional Task Force on Women, Minorities, and Handicapped in Science and Technology. And in 1995, he was named one of the first recipients of the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, Engineering, and Mentoring by President Bill Clinton. He was awarded the Golden Torch Award for Lifetime Achievement in Academia by the National Society of Black Engineers, and was selected as a distinguished alumnus of historical black colleges and universities by the National Association for Equal Opportunity in Higher Education. Dr. Adams holds a Bachelor's of Science from Norfolk State University, a Master's of Science from Virginia State University, and a PhD from Syracuse University. In May of 2023, as Father John mentioned, he received an honorary degree from Notre Dame in recognition of his tireless advocacy and unfailing commitment to developing the full potential of every individual. As Father Jenkins also mentioned, Dr. Adams has served as a mentor, a coach, and motivator to hundreds of individuals who now hold advanced degrees and are leaders in their career lives. Among those he has mentored are 4 university presidents, 10 deans of engineering, the first black female CEO of a major U.S. company, the first Native American female to receive a PhD in engineering, and more than 20 black female tenured professors in STEM. Since retiring from GEM, he has focused on speaking, writing, and publishing materials that make the case for graduate education and highlight the fact that when given the same opportunities available to the majority, underrepresented minority students survive, thrive, and excel in advanced degree programs. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Howard Adams and our distinguished panel.
Wow, this is fantastic. I'm standing up here looking at you all. I'm a Notre Damer. In fact, I keep telling people I'm Irish. I had such a wonderful time here, but to be invited back to have received an honorary doctorate is beyond your wildest dreams. And then to come back tonight on the occasion of celebrating the life and legacy of Martin Luther King, what can capture that? Nothing is quite like that. So, Father Jenkins and Notre Dame, thank you on behalf of myself and my mentees. We are delighted to be here. You honor us to have given us this opportunity. I didn't know Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. personally, but I was blessed to get a chance to hear him speak twice. And on one of those occasions was the August the 28th, 1963, March on Washington. I was in that crowd. I didn't know it was going to be that famous. Can you imagine standing there, though, in this crowd, and I was probably as close as you could get without some kind of special badge. They cut me off. I couldn't go any further than that, but I was pretty close to the stage when he was speaking. And the crowd absorbed all of that. He was just, well, you know that, but he was just powerful. And so he captured the moment, the attention, and everything about it. But he really was, his life was about embracing certain values, and why it's so important that I feel so good about Notre Dame. You also have the same kind of values that serve students and faculty and people well. Dr. King talked about courage. It takes courage to do the kind of things that we need to do. It takes courage to go against tradition. It's all right, nothing wrong with tradition, but sometimes it needs to change. And this is one of those places that prepare people to be changed people. It changed me. I can honestly say that. It changed me being here. It's about truth. I put that word second because if there was ever a time that we needed people with the truth, we need them now. And we reward people for not telling the truth. It's about justice. I stand here as a black male. I grew up in the South when the South was segregated. I went to a one-room school with no equipment. If my father hadn't brought the wood for us to have a fire, we wouldn't have had a fire even. And yet, here I am. All I needed was the same kind of opportunities that other folk got. And so we wake up one day and find out that women and minorities, particularly in STEM, don't have the same opportunity. And Notre Dame joined with a group of other folk, not only joined, but said, if you decide to do that, we will be the sponsoring headquarters. That's how we ended up at Notre Dame. We got invited to be here. And every time I see them, I let them know that you made all the difference. You saved us a lot of money that we would have had to pay had we not been with you all. Your name, the Notre Dame name, served us well. And so we moved on then, and we got to work on this justice thing to make the case for this. Not just for this, we were making it because that's what we had funding for. But we talked to everybody. If you say you want to, whatever you're trying to find something in, if we could help you, we helped everybody we could help. So I've got people who were in other disciplines. We couldn't fund them, but we could point them to funding. And it was a well-kept secret. We didn't have the right information. So a room like this can go out and provide people with information. You can't make good choices if you don't have good information. And that was part of what we did. Dignity, respect of personhood. That's not always been true for women, for people of color. We have not always had the opportunity to be respected in our own skin. If you change, and say you're not who you are, we might do something for you. But no, we don't want to give that up. And so I come along and try to help validate that. You're all right. You can be who you are. And you're good. And you ought to go out and prove that. And that's what they did. So we did that. And then finally, compassion, humility, but service. You got to give back. And I'm going to talk about you bad if you don't do it. And everybody who knows me knows I'm loud. And I have a PhD in talking. So you don't want me to have to get on your case. So people, you hear me say that and it sounds like I'm threatening folk. I'm not. I'm challenging them to be the very what? Best that they can be. And then we guide them along that route. So that's what we did. How did we do all of this? I'll do this quickly. We are a tax-exempt, nonprofit corporation. We got started with memberships, and so we had universities that we had to convince to partner with us, join up with us. And it was unheard of because we're going to give us a black student, a Native American student, a Puerto Rican student, a Mexican American student, a portable fellowship and tell them you can go to any of these schools on this list. You got to make the case for why you're supposed to be there. But they've already said they're going to take some students. And so if they don't do it, you let me know. And so folk, I already told you, they don't want me talking. So folk did what they were supposed to do. And so students were admitted. And so you're going to hear from 3 of them tonight. a little bit about, we're going to just sort of share with you how they got where they are right now. And then finally, what we were talking about was advancement. We've got to live by the creed that we are, in fact, looking for the very best person. We can live with that. But you can't put us in a different pile. You have to do this right. So if I get turned down and I didn't qualify, I can live with that. But we found people who didn't qualify and they got hired. We found people who didn't qualify and they got the job. They got promoted. Somebody ought to stand up and say, that isn't right. So they paid me to do that. I had 75 universities and about 80 corporations that sponsored us. And I would get up in a board meeting and tell them what I was going to do. And you're going to hear people say that, that guy, he's nasty. And I said, you need to say, no, he's not nasty. He's just straight up. And so eventually that became a part of what we were talking about. So Father Ted became our honorary chairman. And he would come to meetings for me and speak and validate that this needs to be done. Just like you are doing now. You're validating that this was worthy of this kind of being involved in this kind of night. And again, we want to say thank you for having us here. And then finally, what I want to say to you is, in terms of my own experience here, you heard some of the people that we produced as a result of this. But I want to give you a few key points. We have 3 couples as full professors at the University of Puerto Rico, Marguerite, in engineering. They all have PhDs. And they'll tell you they didn't want to leave Puerto Rico. And I had to say, you're going to leave. You're going to come to the United States and get your PhD and go back to work. And they look at me like, you can't talk to, you're going to come. And I don't want you to ever let your mouth say that again, that you're not going to do that. Now, what you're going to tell me is where would you like to go, and then we'll talk about whether that's the right place for you or not. And we did, and all of them went different places. Husband, and I'd call the school and say they're a pair. You can't take one without the other. They got their PhDs, and they're back there. And they're now department chairs, head of programs, raising money, all of the kind of things we're talking about. And they told us it couldn't be done. And so I want to say to this audience, this can be done. And you don't need to keep walking around saying I couldn't find nobody. That's what people were saying to me. You can't find women. And I had to speak up and say, women are not lost. Black folk are not lost. So I'm challenging you that are here, wherever you are, and you sit on these things and people come back and say that, you have to speak up and say, no, that's not good enough. We give our rights away if we don't do that. Then finally, what I want to tell you about 2 other things, and then I'll shut up. I told you I got a PhD in talking. We had to go to the federal government, and it had the same problem. Couldn't find nobody. And it's our money. We pay taxes too. So you have to speak up and say, wait a minute here. We're going to stop. We need to know who gets this money and how did they get it and why we didn't get any. And simply because you say you can't find anybody, you ought to give it to us because we don't have that problem. And so we were able to get people to give us some of the money to support students to go on. The last year, when I got here, the first year we gave 6 fellowships. I stayed almost 20 years, and we gave 250 the last year I was here. This year, we awarded 500. Our goal in 2 years, we want to be at 1,000. It can be done. But we need the universities. We need the faculties. We need provosts to say to faculty, oh, no, we're going to have some students. And you get the list. We send you the list of people who qualify. They got money coming. All you got to do is say, come to Notre Dame, come to MIT, come to Georgia Tech. So you can't write those reports anymore and say you couldn't find anybody. We found them for you. I'm not talking about you, but I'm just saying we have to say that to folk. And so that's where we are. And so what I want to say to you all tonight is, again, I am overjoyed to see this audience, that you are recognizing the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He gave his life, not for himself, not for just black folk. He gave his life for justice for folk, period. And so it's okay to call time out and recognize that. And it's more than just a holiday. It's to do some work about it. This group here, we're going to ask them some questions, and they're going to answer. You all didn't catch that. We are so proud of them. They were just ordinary mortals like everybody else. Out here in this audience, ordinary mortals. And something good happened to you, and it changed your life. These people, they had it. Robert there, he was here when I met him. I'm going to tell his story, and then I'll leave the rest of it alone. I met him running out of the engineering building. And I saw that 3 or 4 times. I'd see him running. He'd come through the door, boom, running. So finally one day I grabbed him, where you going? So he was running while he was talking to me. He was on the track team. What's your major? He said, engineering. I said, I have never seen you running in an engineering building. I want to see you start running in the building some. I'm going to be checking on that. So he's sitting there trying to decide, who is this guy? So I found out he ran track. We talked a little bit about that. I say, how you doing in engineering? He said, I'm doing all right. That's what that means. He said, I'm doing all right. I didn't press it no more. I said, okay, but we're going to have to check on that. But you're going to come to see me. And don't have me have to find you, because I can find a black male from Philadelphia who's in engineering running out the building. And the story goes, he started coming to see me. The word got around, and he was part of it, that if you pass by his window and his coat is behind the door he's in, you can just go in and talk to him. And I'm saying that to folk because I was as busy as you could possibly be, but he'll tell you, they never came to say, what you want to talk about today is going to take more time than I got today. But I'm glad you stopped, because we can get that on the agenda. And so I want to say to people out there, when you're doing this, I know you're busy, you're supposed to be busy. But you can't be too busy for young folk who need some guidance. When I say young, I'm talking about all of them. And so you stop and just take a few minutes. And because I took a few minutes, I got his attention. His grades went up at Notre Dame. He graduated, went to Brooklyn Poly, got a master's degree in a hurry, because I let them know if you don't get it done in a hurry, I'm going to talk about you. So he got it done in a hurry. And he's who he is today. All of them will tell you their story. The first thing I want to ask you all is, we hear so much about retention and that you can't keep people. So I want to know how you all stayed with it. Didn't drop out, didn't go home. Okay, you at Vanderbilt. So you could have gone home. I don't like it here. I don't like the food, all that stuff that we come up with. Why did you stay? And then as a result of staying, what caused you to go on? And we'll ask some questions like that. So the first thing I want to know is, how did you stay? Yes. Rob, why did you stay here?
Sure. Before I begin these remarks, I want to thank the University of Notre Dame for having this event and having us here. Thank you. It's truly an honor and a privilege to return home.
Are the mics on good?
Yeah. Yeah, truly an honor and a privilege
Okay, speak up a little
to return home. All right. May the spirit and impact of the Walk the Walk Week endure for an eternity. Thank you, Father Jenkins. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Adams. So now I need to answer that question. So why did I stay in the engineering program? Well, first of all, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be an engineer. I loved math. I loved physics. I loved all the things that go along with being an engineer. The next portion of that question was, what helped me or what caused me to go to graduate school? He gave you a good portion of that answer because I didn't have somebody in my family that had even gone to college, right? My immediate family. My sister was enrolled, but I'm referring to my parents. I didn't have that. My sister was not an engineer. So from that perspective, the next best thing was someone that could be like my parents, and that was Dr. Adams. And I was blessed to be here at the University of Notre Dame in the engineering curriculum and to have the headquarters for the GEM program here. Now, he is not kidding about the fact that when I saw his coat and his hat on that coat rack, I went into the office. And many times he was on the telephone. And so I naturally drew back and went to go and, no, come in here, sit down, you know. And you know, he was talking to university presidents, members of his staff in a variety of different places, the representatives at these universities, and I got to listen in. I mean, there was no confidential information, but I got to see him do what he does. And so that helped reaffirm, wow, this is really what it is. And so I met him as a first semester sophomore. And for anybody that knows the engineering program, by the end of sophomore year, you know whether you're going to hang around or whether or not you're going to find another major. And I stuck it out. Now, I happened to graduate as the only African American with an engineering degree in the class of 1985, about 1,500 students or so. And I stuck around, and a large part of that is because of him. Now, I had my mother was there, my grandmother was there, and I had an aunt and uncle that loved me too. And so I stuck around because I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew that was part of my fabric, but I had somebody on a daily, almost daily basis, certainly weekly, definitely monthly basis, that could give me some reinvigoration, and I could see myself in him, and I carried on. I have a PhD in talking too, and so I'm going to turn this question over to my colleagues, because I can talk a long time about it. Okay. Over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. You know, in looking at why I remained in engineering or had the opportunity to remain in engineering is mentoring, right? Each of us plays a part in someone else's life and encouraging them and inspiring them to move on, to move to the next level. Also, persistence and being able to stay in an engineering program and gut it out. But also, and all of you can play a role in this, is community. Having a community or a sense of community. My time here at Notre Dame was, you know, filled with that. Doc brought me on to the GEM Fellowship Office as a recruiter, and so there was a sense of community. I'm from a small town in Mississippi, and so when we, you know, talk about that, we talk about going from a red light to a stop sign, and you know how those things impact community. So it's really important that all of us play a role in the retention of not only STEM students, but students in general. Why is that? In terms of where we are as a nation and being able to contribute to the competitiveness of the United States becomes even more vital. So regardless of the area that you're working in, your discipline, whether you're staff, faculty, or working on any other part on the campus, we all have to come together as community and be able to, actually feed into those young individuals who are coming forth. So it takes, as they say, it takes a village, right? So all of that helped me to, move forward as a female, an African-American female in engineering, and, mentors such as Doc to rise to the level that I'm at today. So again, thank you so much for having us.
So I'm going to take a different approach. I'm the 2-time college dropout on the panel. So when you say, what made you stay? I dropped out. The 2 weeks into my sophomore year, so I started off at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I finished high school in Elkhart. And I did okay freshman year, but I didn't set the world on fire. Everything was 350 students, calculus, chemistry, 350 students, English, 250 students. And so I dropped out and came home, back to South Bend or Osceola, wherever we lived. And I got a job at a clothing store at the mall. And then I wanted to go to Chicago for the weekend to hang out with my college friends. And I didn't know at the time you couldn't have the Friday off after Thanksgiving. It wasn't called Black Friday then, but it was the Friday after Thanksgiving. So I quit that job so I could go to Chicago and hang out with my friends. And when I came back, you got a week to find a job. So I delivered pizzas. You don't make a lot of money delivering pizzas. And so I did that about 2 weeks, and I said, I better go back to college. So I think a couple things that made the difference for me. And I dropped out at grad school, but I won't, that's another story. Made the difference. One, I've always been driven. So when I was 7, I was gonna be an OBGYN. I had a whole plan. When I was in 9th grade, I injured my knee for the first time. And then I discovered biomedical engineering and orthopedics. And so I wanted to develop a synthetic cartilage. And that was the motivation that made me go back to school, was there was a need to have synthetic cartilages for the body. And so that was my internal motivation. And then I think externally, as everybody else said, mentors, my parents obviously, come home, imagine telling him you're dropping out of school, right? But then an organization that so Sylvia and I are best friends, and we met through the National Society of Black Engineers. And that was a huge organization that made a difference. But on all the campuses that I was on, there was always someone in an office that you could just go to and camp out when you needed it. When I was at A&T, it was my physics professor. When I was at UVA, it was the Minority Engineering Program Director. When I got to grad school, it was Jan Reinhardt who ran the Women in Engineering program. I'd be in Jan's office like, I don't know why I'm doing this, I don't know what this is about, da 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 da. So never underestimate the role that you play, even if you're not directly in someone's sphere. Because Jan is not an engineer, she never had an engineering degree, but she was a safe place to go in a storm. And that's what all of us, need at some point in time.
Sure. So, let me say.
Let me say something on that point that I think I want to share with you. I say to people, you don't know what it's like when you don't have somebody that you can have a bad day with. Everybody, basically, you don't think about it, but everybody knows somebody when you're having a bad day that you can have a bad day with. And so I was trying to explain this, and the provost said to me, you could talk to me. And I said, you never talked to me about, have you ever had a bad day with me? He said, no. Well, why would I come and have one with you? And it took a little while for that to sink in. He said, I never thought about that. So I want to make sure you hear me say, she's saying that when you're having a bad day, you need to have a safe place to go to just sort of get quiet within yourself and get some advice about how to overcome this. And so a place this big, with all the things that it has and the name and everything, is scary. Because you're going to recruit people who, the one stoplight, and everybody knows everybody. Okay? And you come here, and I was trying to say this to people when I came here. I don't have anybody who, when they see me, look me in the eye and say, good morning. And people were shocked. They would be walking with me and they say, you said good morning. Do you know her? I said, no. I said, we just speak to each other. So if you have never noticed that on the campus, we speak to each other when we see it. We speak. Good morning. All of a sudden you get a place and nobody says good morning.
Can you clarify what you mean when you say we? Because I think people, he doesn't mean just all people.
No.
It's a sort of a thing in the black community.
Yes.
When you see somebody, you speak.
You speak.
And so when we have tried to introduce that notion to people that are not in the black community. They have a hard time grasping it. But it can be a what's up. It could be a head nod. It doesn't even have to be words.
Right.
If we're passing each other, we go. You either go up or you go down. But it's you're saying, you know, and in your head nod, you're saying, hey, what's up? How are you? Yeah, I see you. And that's important to us. So when you don't find that on a campus, when people just walk by and don't say anything, you're like, well, I bathed today, you know.
That's good. Let's try the second part of this that I wanted you all to say something about. Now, you've gone to graduate school.
Yes.
Because we're going to speed it up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
You've gone to graduate school, and people are hearing what you're doing, and there's a lot of folk out there thinking, well, they're not talking about, we're just giving you our experience. You can go do what you want to do. But we're telling you, giving you some pointers about how we made it work, where we were sitting. You take this and make it work where you're sitting. And we're saying to people who can do something about it, that you have to hear this and ask the question. You hear us talk about the fact that you bring me here and I need somebody to say good morning. That has to be a conversation. It's just a normal kind of thing. Maybe you didn't know that. I found people, they were shocked. You said hello and you don't know them? Yes, we do. Well, when nobody does that, it's a lonely place. I want to know now, the two of you all are in administration. You at senior level at a university, and so people think you got brains running out of the back of your head, and that you're crazy because they hear all these bad things about being on the college campus. When did you start thinking that you might want to do that? What caused you to do it? The two of you all, and then Rob, I'm going to come back to you for something else.
I mean, I will say that I don't know if I actually really consciously thought about it in terms of, you know, going from someone who was in industry and doing engineering work in industry to a faculty member and, you know, seeing myself in this position earlier on. So an undergrad, of course, no, right? But as I moved forward in my career and met, you know, colleagues and best friends like Stephanie and was motivated to actually impact change became really important to me. So how was I going to do that? I talked to the students earlier today about plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, right? You always need a plan. And so in seeing myself in this role has been very humbling, because looking or being on this side of the coin, you see the complexity in impacting higher education. And the environment now for higher education, you know, reminds me of one of King's, you know, quotes or what's on his statue, from the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. And so, you know, I'm trying to be a beacon of hope and trying to, you know, make impact across research and across innovation. And so when you asked the question, did I see myself here? Not necessarily. I aspire to it because we talked about it. And we actually have a pet, right, amongst us in regards to, you know, academic administration. But you know, you have to be, in terms of me, being, you know, a change agent, an innovative leader, a service leader. And so, you know, I say when you talk about leadership, it's not about how much you can take, but it's about how much you can give. I told the students earlier today, there are 4 things that I follow in leadership, and that's listen, learn, leverage, and lead. You may hear me say that over and over again, but it's really important that you listen, really listen to individuals who you're going to be leading with. And so that keeps me motivated.
So I wanted to go into administration. I decided I didn't like corporate America. So I interned with 3M up in the Twin Cities all during my undergrad work and all during my master's degree. And I loved what I did at the company. But this notion of working 11 months and 2 weeks every year and only getting a 2-week vacation seemed like that just wasn't going to work for me. So I needed to do something different. And so I naively thought that if I went into the academy, I'd have my summers off. You know, Trish, summers off, Christmas break for a month, and then you become a dean, and it's like I got a week. But that got me started that was the decider between corporate America and higher ed. But then I wanted to just work with students because so many people had impacted me. So my first goal was I just want to be associate dean for academic affairs at a college of engineering because that was the office that designed all the student programs. The summer program, the scholarship program, the tutoring program, and I wanted, as Sylvia said, I wanted to give back. And then I got to a place where in 2005, there was a statistic, there were 16 black women full professors of engineering in the whole country out of 23,000 people. And I was like, somebody's got to do something about that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And so that sort of became a thing for me. And I just started, okay, the higher I go, the more I can pull other people. The higher I go, the more I can pull other people. And so now it became I can help others. And so it's all about service, and it's about the next generation and making a difference and giving back to the people the Jan Reinhardts that gave me a safe place to sit and cry when I needed to about whatever was going on in grad school, so.
Thanks. Rob?
Yes.
You are the entrepreneur sitting up here, and everybody thinks they're going to discover something in the garage and make a whole lot of money and not have to work, just come by and see if everybody's still there and they go play golf or whatever they do. So how did you decide that you would go take that on?
Well, I thought along those lines. The truth is, there'll come a time in your life and you have to make a decision about what's going to make you happy. And see, happiness doesn't mean that there's no rainy days. It doesn't mean there are no obstacles. It doesn't mean there are no challenges, but you have to decide what makes you happy. And when you find happiness, something that energizes you, whatever else is happening is A-okay. It's fine, right? You can deal with it. So that's what helped me, and that's what sustains me right now. Of course, I have a family that loves me, but you've got to find out what makes you happy and where you think you can make the greatest impact. So the last career opportunity I had in the corporate world, I was at the IEEE, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, staff director reporting to a chief information officer. We were pioneers in e-commerce, right? In 2001, we were one of the top 15 pay sites, number 11 in fact. Newsweek magazine, August 2002. Amazon wasn't on the list, all right? So you got to find out what makes you happy. I had done that. In fact, I'd done that for more than a decade. And I also, first career opportunity was Merck. Second one was Mars, Snickers, Three Musketeers, those folks. Video conferencing, name was all over it. At Merck, Business TV Network, first in the pharmaceutical industry. So now, I want to protect global digital assets. And I'm really focused on small and medium-sized businesses because they don't have the staff. And threat actors, what do? They'll find the weakest link in the supply chain, and they'll move up and they'll cause some real serious problems to the ones that do have, right, the people and the investment. And so there's huge opportunity there, but I love cybersecurity. And so that helped me to volunteer, right? I was chosen the role as chairperson Aviation Cybersecurity Programming Committee for the Air Traffic Control Association, dealing with aviation cybersecurity, critical infrastructure. Look, I got a call, and I'm volunteering, and I get the question, hey, would you like to be chairperson of this committee? Well, what do I have to do? You're already doing it. That was
All
it.
right, Robert.
Yep.
We got time for one more question,
Yep.
because there's other stuff that's going to go on tonight.
Yeah.
And what I want to ask you two, Stephanie and Sylvia, what kind of advice? There are people sitting out there, they see you, and they're wondering, what do I need to do from where I'm sitting to make my dreams come true?
Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you give somebody sitting out there? You've been in the audience too, so you know how you made the decision. But what is it that you do on a given day to move you from where you are, where your dreams are, to make those dreams come true? What kind of advice would you give them? Sylvia? Yes.
I would say, know why you're doing what you're doing, right? Have a motivation for the work, for the passion. I do bio devices in my other life, right? My aunt has diabetes. She suffered a stroke because we didn't catch her change in glucose. So my research is around glucose sensing and developing glucose sensors. So have a purpose for your madness, if I should say.
My advice to you would be, the first part of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. So first of all, you have to know yourself. You have to know what makes you tick, what you like, what you don't like. You've got to identify that. And then I think you have to follow your passion. And you can't be apologetic about it. And there's people that are going to come for you and they're going to say, you shouldn't do that, you're not good enough to do that, you're not good enough to go to grad school at this school, whether you're going to law school, medical school, whatever, something's wrong with you. There's thousands of schools in the country. So if you got your heart set on going to, Jeff came from Purdue, going to Purdue and you don't get in, go to Northwestern, right? I mean, if you want to get a degree and Northwestern admits you and Purdue doesn't, go to Northwestern. The world doesn't come to an end because you didn't get your first choice. But if you know your passion and you follow that, and you're unapologetic about it, it doesn't mean you're nasty about it. You're just unapologetic about following what you want to do. And the last thing I'll say about that is, some of you are in our age generation remember Marlo Thomas, that girl. If you haven't Googled that girl. But Marlo Thomas was the daughter of Danny Thomas, who founded St. Jude's. And when she was trying to get into acting, she thought about changing her name because she thought being the daughter of Danny Thomas would hurt her, or whatever. And so his advice to her was, just run your own race. Yeah. So that's the advice that I have used in my life. It's the advice I tell students that come and ask me, professionals that come and ask me, put your blinders on. Don't get distracted by what somebody else is doing. Because it's very easy, if you Google this, picture of Michael Phelps from the last Olympics. He's swimming against a South African swimmer in the butterfly. He wasn't supposed to win. But if you look at this picture, he's looking straight ahead. And the South African swimmer is looking at Michael Phelps. And who won the race? Michael Phelps. Because he kept his eye straight ahead. He put his blinders on. He didn't care what that guy was doing. Right? So don't worry about what somebody else is doing. We all peak at different times. Right? Some of us peak in 8th grade. Some of us peak in 12th grade. Some of us peak at 55. You peak when you peak. So run your own race.
All right. Well, listen, we have enjoyed being here with you all. We hope we just gave you a sort of a glimpse of what just ordinary folk could do. As I used the expression, we didn't have brains running out the back of our head. We weren't blessed with no special nothing. We just took advantage of what was available. But we paid more attention to the information that we got than our friends did. People tell me all the time, say, wow, you've been lucky. I said, no, I went looking for luck. You didn't go looking for it, and so you didn't find it. So as you hear us, we were ordinary. We're still ordinary.
Yeah.
We're just doing some of the things that we dreamed of doing. I always wanted to be in charge. I didn't like my daddy because he was in charge. I don't mean I hated him. I grew up in a big family, and we had a car and a truck. But both of those were my daddy's. So you'd have to go ask him. And he'd say something like, I don't want my car to go there. And you know how you say to yourself, that don't make no sense. And so, you know, I tried to tell him, Daddy, you've been young. He said, no, I've been young. I didn't have no car. I got one now, and it's my car, and I don't want my car to go there. And so you have to say to yourself, I'm going to go get my own car. So that drove me. I mean, I don't mean that negatively, but it did. Made me feel really good when I don't have to ask you for your car no more. I got my own car. So a part of this, what we're trying to get you, we need more people to stand up and be counted. We don't have enough. We know what the problems are, we hear what the complaints are, but there's no voice. And so there are people in this room who could have a voice, who could speak up. That's not good enough. And don't tell me it can't happen, it can happen. But we need more people. The last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to shut up. The information loops are not as open as they should be. And so how do we get the right information at the right time to the right folk so they can deal with it? So faculty has to bring stuff in the classroom, not just teach. Yes, you're supposed to teach, but you can have a bulletin board. I had to say this at church at home. I go back where I'm from, little country place, and I walked around, there was not a bulletin board in the church. And I had to say, Reverend, why is there a bulletin board? He looked at me like, we can't be putting, I said, Reverend, you can sort of control what goes up there, but right now you don't have anything up. So if I were to send you something that you should get to the congregation, you don't have no place to put it. So he looked at me, I said, well, I'll tell you what, the next time I come back, I expect to have a bulletin board up there. And you know I'm loud. You don't want me to go tell your name and that you didn't do it. And so he looked at me sort of funny, like, you crazy anyway, but I guess I better do something. So he let me know, Dr. Adams, I put the bulletin board up. And he laughed, he said, I didn't realize that much stuff could be gotten to people. And I can tell the young people to go read the bulletin board. It's a simple thing, but without good information, you can't do what we're talking about. All they needed was information. And the GEM program became a conduit for that. And they just represent what that was like. And we were small, we weren't Jonsson, nothing, we just went about doing it because it needed to be done. And so thank you all for coming. Thank you all for allowing us to be a part of this. Thank you for celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to go out of here and we're going to walk the walk. But we say we're going to also talk the what? Talk. Let's say that again. Tonight we're going to do what?
Walk the walk.
Tomorrow we're going to do what?
Talk the talk.
We're going to talk the talk. We're going to put that on the main agenda. And you can count on us. We were delighted to come. We were delighted. Thank you.
We're gonna do some few questions, okay? Okay. Yeah, we have a little time.
Oh, you got no time?
So thanks again, Howard, Sylvia, Robert, and Stephanie. That was fantastic. We have time for just a few questions. I've been told we have microphones in the back of the room somewhere. So I'm going to invite you, if you have a question right now, to make your way to the back of the room and ask that question. Where are the microphones? Oh, they're going to be standing up right here. Go for it. Yeah. Just make sure you state your name.
Okay, I'm a little bit tall, so okay. First of all, thank you so much for this wonderful panel. I'm Saif El-Maleh. I'm a sophomore studying aerospace engineering and political science. I'm from Egypt. And one major theme I noticed was the concept of mentorship and how it's important to have a mentor. So my question was, how do you build, first, a mentor network, like how to find mentors? Second of all, how to improve a mentor relationship that prompts you towards your passion? Thank you.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you so much for that. The advice I like to give to people is to show up. Show up at it, follow your interest. Show up at an event, a conference, a gathering like this. Show up at a coffee shop. Find out where the topic that you are interested in, the career path you might want to pursue, find out where those people might be. Then regularly engage. Service equals purpose. Get involved. Your service to others will unlock doors that you couldn't open on your own. And I advise anyone here, certainly the students, you want to meet people, go to the events. Go to the events, get to know the people, get involved. Before you know it, you're going to tap on the shoulder, and they're going to invite you to take on maybe some more responsibility. Then you're building relationships with people that you didn't know, and that's how it happens. It's not it's not as much a formality, but it's an approach to life. I'll turn it over to one of you.
So I would add, find people that are doing what you think you want to do. So in 2004, I decided, I think, that I want to be a university president. So over the last 19 years, every time I see a president, I talk to him. Yeah. You know, some of them kind of brush you off, and some of them take an interest. And so I've probably got half a dozen currently sitting presidents, former presidents. Well, I've got half a dozen current presidents that are friends, but I've got another half a dozen that are former presidents that I can call. So when I start thinking about it, it's, hey, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? But I had to stoke the relationship. Yeah. So it didn't go from, hey, how are you, to, I want to be a president, can I talk to you, right? I might have added them to my Christmas card list. Or I might drop an email every blue moon and say, hey, here's what I've done in the last year or so. Just kind of a little update, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking. And so then it makes it easier. But also mentoring goes two ways. And so most people think, I want to go be this thing, I'm going to go talk to that person. But there's something they can learn from you as well, right? So as the generations change, technology, I used to be really good with technology as an engineer. Now I'm like, if I don't get the blue screen of death, it's a good day. And can somebody come and wire up my stuff in my house, because I can't do it anymore. But I find young students who can come and wire it up, who can build my website, who can do things. And so I mentor them, and that's how they pay it back to me in different ways. So that would be my answer.
Let me say something to add to that. Not only do you need a mentor, but you can't get everything we're talking about from any one person. Right. So you need multiple mentors based on what you're talking about doing. And some of those need to be what I call big dogs. And so people look at me when I say that and they want to know what you're talking about. I'm not talking about chihuahuas. I'm talking about a big what?
Dog.
Dog. Why anybody would call a chihuahua a dog is beyond me. Okay? You got to put a coat on it. It can't walk with you. You got to carry it. When it barks, nobody don't pay any attention. So if you're going to have a dog, you ought to have a what?
Big dog.
Big dog. So you need some big dogs in your life. And I've been blessed that from the time I was 10 years old, I met the president of the cotton mill home in Danville, Virginia, and he used to come out to our house to hunt. And I'll tell you young people this, and he'd get out with his dog, and my father had said he could hunt on our land, and he'd go off in the woods. And it dawned on me, that man's walking by himself. I should go with him. So the next time he come up here, I'm going to ask him, can I go? So the next time he came, I say, can I go with you? He looked at me. Now, this is a white male. He's 50-some years old, and I'm 10 years old. He could have just as easily said what?
No.
No, but I didn't say it like I was afraid or nothing. You know, I'm going to tell him, well, you're on our land here. If you say, you know, I let him know, hey. So he said, okay, if you want to go, you can go with me. So then I started picking his brain. How you get this job? I remember asking him that. And I'm fascinated. He didn't flinch. He didn't say, a black kid 10 years old don't need to know that. He just laughed, like he said, well, that's, you know, I could see him saying, today I know he's saying, that was a good question, Adams. He said, I wanted this job real bad. You got to want to be president. Bingo, I knew that at 10 years old. He said, but somebody going to be president of the meeting. Might well be me. I like that. And then he said, but you got to want to be responsible. He said, don't never let your mouth say that you don't want to be what? Responsible. I heard that at 10 years old. From that time on, I asked him a lot of things. Why you got 3 cars when there ain't but 2 people here can drive? And he laughed. He said, well, the Jeep is my recreation vehicle. I carry the dog in and pull the boat with that. The sedan, that's my business car. Station wagon, that's the family car. He said, when you get where I am, you need 3 cars. I'm telling you that because he could have just as easily said, a black kid don't need to know that. Yeah. He changed my life. To this day, I remember him saying, you got to want to be in charge. I have never let my mouth say I didn't want to be responsible. So, get yourself a big dog. Leave the chihuahuas to some smaller task. They all right, there's nothing wrong with a chihuahua, but don't call that your dog. Okay. I thought I'd get your attention on that, because everybody who hears it, they remember me for that. And I'm saying everybody needs a what?
Big dog.
Big dog. Everybody.
I think we have time for one more question.
I don't know if we do.
We won't let him answer the last question.
Okay, yeah.
We'll shift it here.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Rosales. I'm a PhD student in biophysics and a GEM fellow. So I want to start with
Oh, okay. Yay.
So I want to start with a genuine thank you. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the work that a lot of you have done, and I know that's the same for a lot of the young people in the room. But my question for you is, you talked a lot today and earlier about dreaming big. You want to dream big. And so for each of you, what is your dreams for the work that the next generation can do? You've cleared the path a little bit. I think you've made it easier with everything that you've done in the past. So now it's our turn. What's your dreams for us?
Sylvia, go.
No, yeah, right? I would say my dream for the next generation is to really bring us back together as a people with purpose, a people that cares about your brother, your sister. And you all can do that even with all the advancements that we're making with technology, with the things that we're solving around global challenges. But key to that is being able to be compassionate about your fellow man. We've lost that. So if you all can't do anything else, please, please bring us back together. I mean, you're brilliant. I mean, brilliant. There are so many great things coming out of young people today. You're brilliant. But in that brilliance, have some compassion for your fellow man.
Anybody else want to follow that up? That is a great
Well,
one.
sure, that's been a theme all day, and you probably heard it. And I more or less said the same thing she said. Compassion for humanity is at the top of the list. So you're going to want to be resilient. You're going to want to be flexible. But compassion for humanity includes sustainability, right? It includes good character. We've got AI technology. We've got other things that are coming into the world in the way of innovation. And sustainability has to be a part of that. And good character has to be a part of the decision and the solution too. Because if it's not, it runs off and we're doing damage more than we are making the world a better place. That is the hope and the expectation that I have. It's in the remarks I give to the 750 new engineering students coming in to the doors of a university in New York. Make the world a better place.
Amen. That's all that needs to be said.
You don't want the last? I'm going to give you the last word if you want it.
Yeah.
You good?
That's good.
All right. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Those were great questions, a great one to end on. Thank you all for attending tonight. This is a fantastic crowd. And thank you, Howard, Sylvia, Robert, and Stephanie, for joining us tonight and sharing wonderful insights. So at this time, I invite you to join us for our annual candlelight prayer service at 8 p.m. in the main building of Rotunda. Event shuttles are available at the south entrance of Duncan to take you to the main building. These shuttles will make 2 loops from Duncan to Main. For those of you who are willing to brave the cold, and we're in South Bend, I know a lot of you are fine with braving the cold. You are also encouraged to walk with your table mates to the prayer service. A dessert reception will follow the prayer service in the new DEI Center on the 2nd floor of the Fortune. Thank you again for being here, and I wish you a wonderful evening.